levels of government are here, and there's a working group to look at the issue of housing in Toronto. When can we expect some announcements on how you plan to help the affordability issue?
Well, I think the working group was intended to ensure that we collaborate, because the kinds of things that the federal government can do in the housing market are limited, and there's obviously other things that can be done by the city and by the provinces. So that was the intent, is in order to look at the things that we can do, in particular around ensuring that the housing market doesn't present risk for Canadians. We recognize that people's housing investments are their single biggest investment, and ensuring that market is stable is critically important. So that's the first order of business. And then from there we will be talking about housing affordability, and that will be important, especially in phase 2 of our infrastructure investments, where we're going to be talking about how we can really make a significant difference on housing affordability for Canadians across the country.
A couple more questions?
I just want to answer on the housing. I will say on the stand on the matter of the escalation of housing prices in Toronto, we have placed our confidence in a process put in place by the Minister to look at what, if anything, can and should be done in that regard, whether there's effective mechanisms that can help with housing price escalation. But I will say as well this, on the question of affordability and on the question of the sustainability of public housing as well as affordable housing in Toronto, we are going to need to have a more robust partnership with the other two governments in that area. And I look forward, there has been some initial investment made in that area since the government changed in Ottawa, but more needs to be done. The present arrangement in respect of the state of repair of public housing and the present arrangements in terms of increasing the supply of affordable housing, which is a must, are not sustainable financially on the backs of property taxpayers alone. And that is something that's been debated for some time now, but I'm optimistic that I have a willing audience in these two other governments to talk about this, but we're going to have to make some real progress on it, because it is a problem in this city. It's a big problem. It's as big a problem as moving people around, and I think we have to get at it even to an even greater extent than we have thus far.
As a follow-up, Mr. Morneau, one of the things that your government has discussed, as well as CMHC, for a few years, has been banks having more risk or more skin in the game. How are those discussions going, and is there any other detail you can provide?
Well, as we consider the kinds of things that we can do in ensuring that the housing market presents less risk for Canadians, we're considering the measures that Mayor Tory mentioned, issues that are going to be addressed by provinces and municipalities. We're also considering how we can ensure that the market stays stable. So we are looking at different aspects of that. We include in that all of the sorts of measures that we've taken in the past. So you'll recall that we changed the down payment required for $500,000 to $1 million homes in December, from 1% to 10% for that tranche. And we also are considering more broadly the financing of the housing market. So it's an ongoing consideration, and something that when we have something to announce, we will do so.
Minister Morneau, how firm is this long-term transit funding and planning? You know, it seems all three levels of government for the first time ever are on the same page, but at the same time, Premier Kathleen Wynne's ratings are, polling around mid-20s. Could that all go in jeopardy in a couple of years if there's a different provincial partner?
Well, we believe that Canada works best when all three levels of governments work together. As Mayor Tory mentioned, we're all elected by the same people. So working together on issues that really matter to Canadians, getting them to work faster, getting them home to their families faster, that's critically important. Our long-term infrastructure plan has already been laid out, and we're going to invest $120 billion over the next decade. That, a third of that is going to go into public transportation. We're clearly looking at how we can get people around, whether it's in transit systems like we're talking about today, or other initiatives that will help people to get around. We'll be looking at how we can work together not only with provinces and municipalities, but also with the private sector. So our goal is to amplify that money to have the biggest and most important impact on Canadians, and we're confident we'll be able to do so.
Minister Morneau, I'd like to ask more about the tax in BC. I'm just wondering if that's something that we should be considering for Toronto, given that some people have said that tax in the inflation could potentially affect as well.
Well, as mentioned, we're working together with the City of Toronto, the City of Vancouver, and Ontario and British Columbia to consider how we can look at having an important impact on the potential risk in those two markets. There are some measures that clearly are not in the federal government purview, such as this tax that was put in place by British Columbia. We, therefore, are considering the measures that are really more federal in nature, and we'll have a dialogue about the things that the provinces and cities might do, but clearly they have their own ability to make decisions in their area of expertise.
I will call last question on behalf of all of us, so you can have that however you wish. Yes, Deb. Going once?
I just wanted to kind of round out the housing discussion since I do have two levels of government here. All three. How concerned are you about the government's reliance on the housing sector? There was a national bank report today that said about $120 billion per annum each year to get from housing, and all of this concern in Toronto. Vancouver in particular, how concerned are you about that reliance?
Maybe Minister Morneau may, but I will say this. People are coming to Toronto to live. Thank goodness. They see it as a magnet from around the world to come, to invest, to live. And as long as they're coming to invest and to live, we need to create housing and job opportunities for them. And so I think that in terms of the robust nature of the construction economy and the residential housing economy in this part of the world, it is something that is hopefully going to continue to remain strong. And therefore the governments will be able to rely on the jobs and the revenues that come from that. And our job here at the city, working with the other governments, is through investments in transportation, through various things we can do to make it attractive for people to invest and create jobs here, is to continue to make sure Toronto is a magnet, keep it a livable city, which I think is what attracts people. So we're optimistic here, and we're looking at the glass as way more than half full as opposed to anything else, and that will lead to continued strong industries, plural, including the housing industry.
So the question is how concerned we are with the housing market. I think the answer is this is critically important for Canadians. Mayor Tory mentioned the affordable housing issue here in Toronto. This is a huge area of concern because we want to make sure people have access to affordable housing. That's why we've allocated a significant amount of money, $2.3 billion, against affordable housing as part of our plan. How concerned are we that the housing market is stable? We're very focused on this issue because we want to make sure that the biggest asset that people have is protected. We'll remain very focused on this in order to take the actions that are required to make those investments safe. We will do it while also looking at the state of the economy and making sure that as we take measures that they're appropriate and measured so that we can ensure that we have the impact intended without impacting other parts of the country which aren't experiencing the same sort of risk. We have a complex market where a couple of markets with strong underlying conditions, as Mayor Tory mentioned, Toronto, where the economy is doing well, having a very different situation than Alberta or Newfoundland, for example. So we need to be sure that what we do as we take action is a coherent plan that helps those who are really in a challenging situation by finding affordable housing, protects those who've made significant investments, and allows the markets to keep functioning in an efficient way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment on this give you a provincial perspective. I represent an area that experienced major growth in the last 10, 15 years, and I want to tell you that the fact that Ontario is leading the country in its growth. We're looking at really low employment rate. It's all evidence to say that the economy is going really well. And when the economy is going really well, these are the type of things that tend to happen. And I know Minister Souza has been talking with the federal and provincial counterparts to have a watchful eye on this housing issue. But at the same time, I want to stress that from a province that's almost 1/3 of its population, that's 40% of national GDP. We got to make sure that whatever we come up is well consulted and handle it with steady hands at the provincial level. So I want to tell you that the provincial government has been paying attention to this, but we won't be making very reactive move, just a short fix or something like that. So, okay.